In the beginning, God created time. But on Thursday morning, I didn't have any of that shit. And I was extremely stressed about what team I was going to bring in the Victory Road tournament. So naturally, being the player that I am and the person that I am, I hit up my good friend Raghav, also known as the best team builder in the entire fucking world. And I said, "Yo Raghav, got any spice I can use for a free to enter tomorrow?" And he said, "I've been throwing up instead of playing Pokemon. All in got is this Torn Ogre Dialga team." Oh shit, I'm sorry buddy. It's okay, my stomach feels better, but I'm worried I have COVID. It could also be my allergies. Paste sent. And that's all I needed. And that's all I needed to succeed. Now I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I hate Dialga. I think Dialga is a dog shit gross Pokemon. And I bet you 90% of the people who have clicked this video are here to see me talk about how good Dialga is and how they can use Dialga instead of stupid ass Sweatization. And I'm here to tell you don't. I think Dialga is a seriously just okay Pokemon, and a large part of my success is because I'm a fantastic player, and the other part of my success is because I simply outplayed the hell out of my opponents. Now Dialga to me is... Let's get this out of the way. Dialga to me is a pretty meh Pokemon. It's not in my top 5 Pokemon of restricted I'd use. I think ZACIAN is way better, but the one saving grace about Dialga is its ability... Now, I know why you're all here. You're here to see the star of the show, Dialga. You're here to talk about how Dialga is good. You're here to shame those Sweatization players because you want to be proven right in that your assumption that Dialga is really, really good and broken and that ZACIAN is a dog shit Pokemon. But I'm here to tell you you're wrong. I think ZACIAN's better in almost every way. I frankly think ZACIAN could fit on this team and maybe function well. But the one thing Dialga has going for it is very unpracticed against. Personally, I never played any Dialga mirrors on ladder, and I don't think many people are actually using Dialga or prepared for Dialga. And that was part of the appeal for this team. I also frankly didn't have much of a choice. Again, as I mentioned, I kind of just was thrown into this, and I decided to play in the tournament on a whim, and I just used this Dialga team because I thought it was kind of cool, and I thought, hey, if I lose and I go 0-3, who cares? But this team turned out to be quite good. And let's break into it. Let's start with the star of the show. Let's talk about Dialga and why Dialga is slightly okay. So one cool thing about Dialga is its speed stat. It's actually kind of a speedy restricted. It can function pretty well in both Tailwind and in Trick Room, which is amazing. And if a player like me, I love that shit. Also, another cool thing about Dialga is that it gets access to both Max Quake and Max Steel Spike. Max Quake Steel Spike combo is probably one of my favorite combos in the game. I absolutely love this ridiculous combo, and I think it's so much fun to just boost up your partners and make them unkillable Demon Kings. One other thing that Dialga gets is access to a juicy Max Wormwind. Now, Max Wormwind is honestly like really strong. I think when you're not hitting ZACIAN, it's really broken. It's just straight up awesome. And Dialga has a beefy 150 base special attack stat. So Dialga is no slouch when it comes to damage. And now, the move that brings it all together. Trick Room. I think Trick Room on this Dialga is insanity. One of my favorite strategies, this happens way more than you think, is on the final turn of Tailwind, because we have Tornadus on the team. On the final turn of Tailwind, you press Water Spout with Kyogre and Trick Room, and there's nothing your opponent can do to stop you. I think it's absolutely just innovative and so cool because you're able to twist the dimensions, set up a new form of speed control, and it just brings the whole team together. It's really awesome. I love the combination of Trick Room and Tailwind. I think it makes the team so fluid with speed. It makes it really fast against non-Tailwind teams. If they have Tailwind, you set up Trick Room and they're struggling. So I think it just makes the team so good in almost any matchup. And if you're a good player and you have a lot of control on your team with your play, you can easily take victories against even some of the best players in the world. I was really shocked that I was able to beat players like Bing G Wayne or Gaudy, who are... I look up to them as players. I think they're fantastic players, and I think they're better than me. But I was able to take games with Dialga purely because of the flexibility of this Pokemon and how well it fit into my hand. I, for some reason, really synergized with Dialga. This is my second time top cutting with this Pokemon. For whatever reason, once a year I have to cut with Dialga. And I don't like Dialga. I hate this Pokemon. It shouldn't fit with me, but it's for some reason this Pokemon is just my bread and butter, and it just worked for me, and it worked for me again today. And Dialga's awesome, honestly. Like I hate on this dragon a lot, but I think the way that it fits so fluidly into any team you're using, and if the way it functions as this pseudo Trick Room, pseudo damage Pokemon is just fantastic. And I don't even know anymore. So the set is pretty simple. I ran Life Orb to do as much damage as possible. Obviously for pressure, I ran pressure because I don't have any spread moves, so I didn't need to support it in any way. And then the moveset I already explained. And the spread is pretty simple. It just wants to outspeed Shadow Rider, speed creep the things that speed creep Shadow Rider, while maintaining a lot of bulk and being slow. The spread is super duper simple. Now next up, we've got our second restricted, which is of course Tornadus, who's not actually restricted, but is insanely good. Setting up Tailwind is really, really broken. This Tornadus is super simple. It's literally max special attack, max speed. It's a Sash Tornadus. There's nothing too crazy going on here. And basically, all you do with this Pokemon is you set up Tailwind, and you sweep with Kyogre and Dialga. There's a lot of games where sometimes I just press Water Spout Tailwind and won games off of it. It's really good. The strategy's good. You can checkmate your opponents. It's really fun, really simple strategy. I don't know. There's not much to say about Tornadus, but Tornadus is super important to how the team functions, and also super important to making this flexible, fluid Tailwind plus Trick Room team that we see here. I think this team is really easy to operate for the most part. You just are going to set up Tailwind and sweep with Kyogre and Dialga, and then if they have Tailwind, set up Trick Room. That's really it. It's a very simple team, but I think a lot of players can pilot this to great degrees, and I think it's just an awesome team, and Tornadus is a large part of that function. Now let's talk about Kyogre. Kyogre is a Pokemon that I really like. It's a very simple Pokemon, very easy to use. When you're at full HP, you press Water Spout. When you're not at full HP, please press Origin Pulse. And also, if you're fighting another Kyogre, press Thunder for me. And that's it. That's how Kyogre works. I'm gonna be honest with you, don't know what the spread does whatsoever. I got nothing, dude. Raghav sent it to me, and I trust Raghav. I really do. I think it probably has to do with some Grassy Glide, but it's a pretty slow Kyogre. It's very bulky, so a lot of times in Tailwind, you will be going second to Kyogres, which means in Trick Room, you'll be going first. So I think being a slow Kyogre is totally fine, totally acceptable, because if Tailwind's up, you're moving first anyways, and if you're not, you're moving second, and that's what you want when you're in Trick Room. So it's a pretty simple Kyogre. Again, it's just Mystic Water, just spam Water Spout. It's a good set. But it forms this core, because Dialga can also set up for Kyogre with stat boosting of Steel Spike and Max Quakes, or it can set up Trick Room for Kyogre, and we can just start sweeping. So Kyogre just synergizes. The first three is such a tight-knit, strong core that it's just freaking fantastic. Now, next up is Rillaboom, honestly. So Rillaboom, to me, normally this Pokemon isn't very good. I'm not a huge fan of Rillaboom. It's felt really meh when I used it. But this team is, I believe, a Rillaboom team. Rillaboom is super essential in a lot of matchups, and especially against Pokemon like Gastrodon. Gastrodon would be impossible to beat without the help of this crazy grass monkey here. So I think Rillaboom is very key to the team's functioning and key to how I win games. There were times that I've maxed Rillaboom. It's a pretty decent max as well, because Dialga is your main max, but Kyogre is a secondary one, and sometimes you max Rillaboom. And you can max Tornadus too, but you're mainly maxing Dialga. But Rillaboom I found to be a really good max as well. I won several games against Groudon with it. Just catching opponents off guard, hitting Gastrodon through Protect, stuff like that is really huge, because Gastrodon is a big problem again. But this team just lets Rillaboom shine. It's a pretty simple set. It lives Behemoth Blade, and then the rest is an attack. That's really all it does, and it's Assault Vest to take as much damage as possible. I think Rillaboom is fantastic on this team, and it really proved that Rillaboom can be a good Pokemon, because I was starting to really doubt Rillaboom, but after using it here, absolutely fantastic stuff. There's not much to say. The moveset is pretty simple though. Fake Out, obviously. Grassy Glide, obviously. Knockoff is a cool utility move, and also does well against Shadow Horse. And High Horsepower strengthens the max a little bit and lets you hit Zacian, because I think Zacian is really problematic sometimes. And so having all their moves hit Zacian, really huge. But it really been performed expertly. I mean, maxing this thing in some matchups is really huge too. You got to keep your eyes open for it. Next up, you knew it was coming, Incineroar. For the most part, this Incineroar is pretty basic. Fake Out, Flare Blitz, Parting Shot, Taunt. I think Double Taunt is really strong. I think it's super important to sometimes taunt stuff on Ice Rider teams, but also sometimes just taunting in TR can be really effective. I found myself sometimes just pressing Trick Room and still having Tornadus in the back to have priority taunt, so that they couldn't protect against me next turn while I was maxed with Dialga or something of the sort. But I think Taunt's just good in general. It lets you play a little bit more flexibly, and I think Taunt's just a great move. It stops shenanigans. Fake Out, obviously. Flare Blitz is, you want to fire a move on rain teams. It's always super important. And Parting Shot is the greatest part of Incineroar. Very simple stuff. The spread is just to be as bulky as possible, and take a Sacred Sword comfortably from Zacian. That's really it. It's a pretty simple Pokemon. You guys know Incineroar by this point. I don't really have to talk much more about it, but let's talk about the Duck. Porygon 2. So Porygon 2 is a Pokemon that I would say isn't really as popular at the moment, but I think Porygon 2 is still a really good mon. It's very difficult for a lot of Pokemon to one-shot this Pokemon, almost impossible most of the time. So it ends up being a very, very reliable Trick Room setter, especially with stuff like Rillaboom and Incineroar, 2 Fake Outer users. It's fantastic stuff. The spread, I believe, lives close combat from Urshifu and like Max Knuckle from Thundurus behind Reflect or something. I don't even remember what this spread does. I think this is a spread that Raghav's been using for a long, long time, and I think that was the original intention. But Raghav's one lazy motherfucker, and he likes to just use old spreads. So this moveset is pretty simple. Foul Play is, like, I guess, I wouldn't say interesting, but it's something to note. There's no actual attack, like special attacking moves, and it's just supposed to be Foul Play for stuff like ZACIAN, stuff like Calyrex. It's also analytic, so if Trick Room doesn't go up, you're doing big damage with analytic boosted Foul Plays. Again, just mostly for ZACIAN, mostly for like the physical attackers. There's a lot of Groudon. Also, Kyogre's defense stat isn't great, so you can sometimes hit Kyogre pretty hard. Eerie Impulse is one of the greatest moves of all time. I don't need to explain that one. You lower Kyogre's special attack by 2. You got both sides covered. You Foul Play the physical Pokemon, you Eerie Impulse the special. Recover, you never die. And then Trick Room, the greatest move of all time. There is the greatest move. But it's a super simple Porygon, mainly used for when opponents have Tailwind or you want to set up Trick Room because it's super reliable. Overall, I think this team is super, super fun and super intuitive in the way it functions. You mostly want to lead Tornadus plus Dialga. When you're bringing Dialga Tornadus every single game, I didn't bring them. I never not bring them. I always think that bringing your restricted is ideal, and I found myself never having opportunities to not bring both of them. I think both are really, really good, and if there's things that are threatening them, usually they cover each other pretty well. So you're going to bring Dialga plus Kyogre every single game, and you kind of just pick what speed control you want. Sometimes you don't bring either, and you just bring both Fake Outers, but for the most part, you're going to very rarely bring Tornadus and Porygon together, and you're usually going to bring one Fake Outer. So usually I see common leads are Tornadus plus Kyogre, Tornadus plus Dialga, and then I would say sometimes Rillaboom Porygon 2 or Incineroar Porygon 2. Those are some pretty simple leads that you can start off with, really get a feel for the team. Generally, you try to max, not say early, but usually try to max Dialga, get a lot of pressure on, and then sometimes set up a late game Trick Room to just sweep your opponents. I think the team is super fun to use. I actually had a lot of fun using it, even though I'm a little bit of a Dialga hater, obviously. I still thought it was a super fun team to use, and it just felt really, really good in my hands, and I can't really say that about much Series 12 teams. I just had a really, really big blast with this one, and I definitely think you should try it out. I really do think you should try this team out because it is so much fun. Dialga is surprisingly a fun restricted. It's no ZACIAN, but it's a fun freaking Pokemon to use. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more of this content, I would hit that subscribe button. But either way, thank you for stopping by today. I hope you guys enjoy this team. I really do. I think it's a load of fun, and huge shout outs once again to my boy Raghav, who made this team and made it possible that I was able to talk cut and go as deep as I did, because I owe Raghav the world. And I think Raghav deserves all the credit here. He built this team. I just piloted it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, have a great day. Bye.